Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be bringing you another RWBY theory video. And this one is centered around the similarities between the current volume of RWBY, that being volume 8, and the second half of the 2018 remake of She-Ra that I have found. And some of these I've pointed out during my various Volume 8 videos already. Before I get started, just want to say spoiler warning for RWBY Volume 8 and for She-Ra Seasons 3 to 5. Now, I'm going to start this video by listing off the couple of points I've already made about the similarities, that being Salem's arrival to the siege at Atlas in Volume 8 is very reminiscent of Hordak actually leaving his sanctum in Season 4 and instantly taking over Selenius, and then progressively more and more of the world. Also, what happened during that siege, is it was revealed that the woman who had a massive crush on Catra had left her, had abandoned the Horde. And in this parallel, Cinder is Catra. And that would mean the woman that has a massive crush on her and is leaving the villain's side is Emerald. Now, I wrote this before Chapter 5, and with what we've seen in Chapter 7, it turns out that was correct. We also have Blake's reaction whenever she's been taken into Ruby's semblance, and I guess going through the tubes up to Atlas is very similar to how Catra reacted whenever she was teleported by Glimmer once she joined the rebellion, with the shaking knees and the grasping onto things to steady herself, saying, "Not something I ever want to do again." There's also the fact that there's the cat girl and a buff blonde female who are very close together and have been for several years, and we know how that ended up with adoring Catra, so that's likely going to be in the near future. Well, it was always going to be in the near future, but it's another parallel, I guess. And while I was thinking on the similarities, because there have been a couple smaller ones that I didn't think were important enough to bring into this video, just the general, oh, this reminds me of this happening, or something in here reminds me of this other thing, I got to thinking about my Willow sacrifice theory, and how I said that there's going to be a siege on the Sneem Manor, which is looking more and more likely, and that she will sacrifice her life to protect the kids. And I realized that that's very similar to what Angela did in She-Ra, how once Catra opened the portal to take Etheria out of the pocket dimension, she sacrificed her life to save everyone by pulling the sword out of the portal. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that while there are obvious parallels, a mother sacrificing her life for her daughter and her daughter's friends, That's all there is. But Angela's sacrifice was a lot more than just that. She willingly chose to trap herself between dimensions to stop the main antagonist from destroying the world, and did so by removing a sword of power from the center of the portal. And, well, Willow has nothing to do with trapping herself in a pocket, well, a separate dimension or between dimensions while still being alive. She's got no hope of doing anything to stop the main antagonist, so she won't be able to effectively save the world, and she's got nothing to do with the RWBY equivalent of the Shiro's sword, which would be the relics. I mean, one of them literally is a sword of power. Then this got me thinking, what if there was a better parallel later down the track? Well, either at the very end of this volume or in future volumes. So I decided to make a checklist of what that would require. 1. A willing sacrifice. 2. Being taken from the main world and trapped in a different dimension, or a different form, I guess. 3. Surviving. 4. Stopping the world from being destroyed. 5. Has something contact with some object of power. 6. Protects the kids from that they have become a familiar figure to, because Angela was basically a mother figure to Glimmer, Adora, and Bo. And 7 is more directly related to one of the aforementioned kids than the others, such as Angela being Glimmer's mum. Okay, now that we have the criteria, we can see that Willow only meets 3 of these points. But we can also start running through possible outcomes that meet most, if not all, of these points. And there are 3 main scenarios I can see. The first of these scenarios is the one closest in universe time to where we currently are in the story, as it would have to happen this season. Unless Oscar's marine holiday carries over to past volume 8. Now, this theory is based entirely off of the interactions between Oscar and Hazel in the past few episodes, because it seems as though Oscar has been able to convince Hazel that maybe he shouldn't be working with Salem. So there's the possibility of Hazel betraying Salem to help Oscar escape, along with hopefully Neo and most likely Emerald. If Mercury was still there, he'd probably be in that group as well, but he's gone to Vacuo, so he'll have to be saved later. And in doing so, he has become a pseudo father, older brother to Emerald, because I think she's sort of latched onto Mercury as an older brother or brother type figure, and Hazel's the tier above that, because he's been shown to really care about both those kids. And he's more directly related to Oscar through Ozpin than he is with those two. Okay, so that's 2 criteria. currently worse off than Willow, but we can build onto this. What if, while helping the others escape, Hazel grabs the lamp and gives it to Oscar? This checks off contact with an object of power, and temporarily stopping the world from being destroyed, because it means even if Salem manages to collect the other 3 relics, she still doesn't have the lamp, so can't destroy the world like that yet. What if, before they manage to get off the whale, they're intercepted by the other lieutenants, the Hound, and or Salem herself, and Hazel decides to take a stand against them? Okay, that's 5 out of 7. But I think we can make it better still. We know that Ozpin's old world magic is powerful enough to create multiple self-sustaining pocket dimensions, because we know that there was one in the vault at Haven, there's another one in the vault at Atlas, there's likely one in Vacuo, and we've got no idea whether there's a 4th one somewhere in Vale. So, who's to say that Salem hasn't created a pocket dimension of her own, or isn't capable of creating a pocket dimension in which she throws the people who betray her? Because do you really think that Hazel, in this scenario, is the only one to have betrayed Salem in her entire time in this new world? I mean, think back to Volume 6, when Ozpin was like, do you think he was the first? Do you think he didn't say those exact words to me? In reference to Lionheart. So it's very likely that people have betrayed Salem before as well. So this would result in Hazel meeting all 7, because Salem would keep him alive to torture him for his betrayal, and if she has already or can create a pocket dimension, that's taking him out of the world and trapping him somewhere else. The second possibility would be if one of the adults from Team Stark or Ironwood was the one to carry out the sacrifice, because Team Stark instantly checks off criteria 6 and 7, and Ironwood, along with Crow and Raven, instantly check off criteria 5. Maybe Titus 2, but we don't know for sure, so I'm not going to give him the contact with the object of power. And James also has 6, because I'm classifying Winter as James's familial link, because he was much more of a father figure to her than Jacques ever was, so we're going to give him that. Okay, so all 4 of the adults, because we're not counting Summer in this, she's dead, so all 4 of the adults, they have 2, like Hazel did. But, okay, so let's classify Ozpin as James's direct link. That gives him criteria 7. And we'll place the settings at one of the vaults. So that's to give Ty number 5. Okay, great. All 4 have 3. But there's still more to add on to this. We can actually group the other 4 criteria into a single scenario by saying that one of the adults willingly sacrifices their life by forcing Salem into one of the vaults and having the gateway stuck behind them. I forgot to put a finger up for the forcing Salem through, because that's willing sacrifice, stopping the great evil from destroying the world, a different dimension, and surviving in some form, because we don't know if magic works in these pocket dimensions. So we can't say that once they're through, Salem won't just kill them with magic. We also don't know if they would be able to kill her in the pocket dimension. Is her immortality linked to the world she's in? Don't know. Now, you may be thinking, but Dylan, couldn't Salem just use her magic to get out of there? How would this stop her indefinitely? And I have answers for these two questions. I've already completely answered the first question by saying we don't know if magic works in the vaults. But even if her magic does work in there, she wouldn't be able to escape for the same reason she still needs the maidens to get into the vaults. She doesn't have the specific magic needed to open the doorways between dimensions. At least these dimensions. So that means she can't use her magic to get out, and it's true that it may not stop her eventually. There may be a maiden down the track that opens the vault. But in that time, the lamb's questions may have replenished. Ozpin may have built up a proper army against Salem, and maybe even united the world while she was stuck in there, so that he can just call the gods back, be like, hey, the universe we're all united, you don't need to destroy us, take her away please. The final theory, and the one that if any of these happen, I think could be the most likely to happen, is that the sacrifice is being performed by Ozpin. And Ozpin, like the last option, instantly checks off 3 of the criteria before the sacrifice takes place. That being contact with a relic. I mean, he's somewhat of a relic of the old world himself. Being a familial figure. Oscar is a younger brother to all of the heroes. And Ozpin was an uncle to grandfather figure, I guess, to the rest. And of course there's the direct relationship between Oz and Oscar. There's also the reasonable assumption that Ozpin would perform any sacrifice willingly, so let's add that to the checklist. So we now have 1, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so we learned in Volume 6, Chapter 3, that there exists both an afterlife and a type of purgatory, or a between realm, in the world of Remnant. And it's this between realm that I think Ozpin will have to take Salem, as I think that Ozpin will use the sword of destruction, hammering home the most obvious parallel of them all, to destroy Salem and himself, that being the Ozma part of himself, and banishing them to the Between World. Of course it will be temporarily, as they'll both eventually regenerate or respawn, which in this gives Ozpin criteria 2 and reinforces criteria 5. There's also the fact that since neither of them can access the afterlife, neither of them can truly be classified as dead which means that they're surviving in some form, which gives Ozpin criteria 3. I also think that while they're in this between realm, and if their old magic is neutralized, they'll be trapped together for as long as it takes for them to reform, only for Ozpin to likely sacrifice himself again, and again, and again, every opportunity. And this perpetual cycle of destruction will give them ample opportunity to talk through all their marriage problems. And maybe they'll be able to have conversations with the God of Light or the God of Darkness, because we know they have access to this between realm while they're not on Remnant, so they may be able to come to a resolution between the 4 of them in which Salem doesn't destroy the world, thus effectively saving it, which gives Ozpin the final criteria. So, these were the 3 ways in which I think that RWBY would be able to pull off an event similar to Angela's sacrifice of her life, while also adding their own spin to it. Though honestly, I don't actually expect any of these to happen. I expect elements of them to happen, just not the whole thing in it of itself. One thing I want to add is that I realized as I was finishing my script to this theory is that just before Angela sacrificed herself, it was revealed to the audience that Micah, who had been thought to be dead for most of their daughter's life, was actually alive. And before she died, he realized that they were in a fake reality, so he woke up to his true self and tried to call out saying that he was still alive, though Angela didn't hear it. And it's this aspect that could be used to strengthen Hazel's sacrifice, which it being revealed that maybe Salem didn't actually kill Gretchen. Maybe that was a fake, and she's being kept prisoner by Salem, only to be brought out once Hazel tries to betray her, like, if you actually betray me, I will literally kill your sister this time. And it could also strengthen Team Stark's sacrifice even more than Hazel's, given that Micah was saved by his daughter's friend and was eventually able to reconnect with his daughter. And Summer could be saved by RWBY's friends and later reconnect with RWBY if either Ty or Crow were the ones to sacrifice themselves. It doesn't really do anything to improve Ravens, and it only improves Ty or Crow if they're RWBY's father. I'm leaving it up in the air as to which one, because I still do like the idea that Crow is RWBY's father, though it's looking more and more likely that, yeah, that's not going to ever be the case. I'll also elaborate more on the Summer part of this in a future video. Anyway, that's all I have on this semi-crack theory. So if you guys have other ways in which parts of RWBY can be directly or semi compared to parts of She-Ra, you have any other scenarios that could fit into all 7 of the Angela sacrifice criteria, or you have any reasons as to why you think this theory won't happen, other than this theory is bad, comment them down below, because I love discussing these things with you guys. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.